So we were just getting into a pretty good little debate about how our business and service compares to that of some of the more well-known, glorified, TV personified agents. We talked about Ari Gold, agent to the stars on the show Entourage. Talked about Jerry Maguire. Entourage, you gotta get HBO on that. But basically, those guys are they take on an actor or a sports star, and to reflect it to our world, it's a candidate, right? They pretty much sign an exclusive deal to represent them to the world, and it's their job to make sure that candidate is pretty much like kept busy throughout, right? They have their place of employment, and when that place of employment is, when that project is over or whatever, they gotta make sure that they line up the next one and the next one, and their goal is always kind of build up their profiles, almost like career, manage their careers, right? Yeah. It's not our job to do that. We don't do that, or we don't have to do that, but I would say that we do that on a per time basis.
So you just say dude.
Try not to get a little bit
but we do that, right?
Yeah.
Coach throws that there. But you mentioned the last video, you're saying that we don't typically play the role of the agent and kind of represent that Tom Cruise persona, like Jerry Maguire, for instance, right?
Right.
But in our case, we do, because if we get a PhD from Stanford in computer science, just a rock star candidate, and he's open actively pursuing what's out there, doesn't know specifically what he wants to do in his next role. We have been known to kind of act as his agent in certain cases. When you have that rock star, for us, that's our Tom Cruise, and we'll go and we'll talk to companies about somebody like him, because most companies would want just a rock star like that.
We can, and we do from time to time. We definitely do that.
We do that.
No, but we absolutely can, and I'd say from time to time, I don't know what percentage of everyone's desks, represents taking a candidate and literally, serving as their agent to the market. I mean, we know the market well enough.
Right.
We know our candidates well enough. There's no reason we can't take a, rock star candidate and shop them to the, 50 potential companies that fit his interest, and then find the 10 that, real good matches, and help them set up interviews across the 7, and then get them a job with the 1. There's no reason we can't do that. I think we do sometimes, but I don't know, you think we do it often enough? You think we should be doing it more? You think candidates would like that?
I don't think that by and large, yet again, this kind of keeps going down to, really at the end of the day, I think Pete brought this up at the beginning, every candidate's a little bit different. Like, every situation is a little bit different. By and large, most of the people that we work with, and I think that's partially because by and large, most of the best talent in the market is never actively looking, we're not best served by that model. And if we are really at the end of the day playing for number one, to really structure our entire business model around that, I think would be a pretty bad decision. Now, from the occasional candidate, sure, you're going to run across someone who had a bad situation, had something come up where they're in a position where they need to leave. In that instance, I think we're in a position where we represent a large enough client base that we can help that person, but I don't think that going out and deliberately structuring a business model in our world from that perspective would be a good decision. It would be something that really at the end of the day would be beneficial to our larger base, because I think we're just better suited to work with that more passive candidate.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, though, that the best people aren't always actively looking. I mean, people start looking for any number of reasons. I mean, you have rock stars out of Yahoo and places like that. The company gets a little instability, and they're on the market.
Have you heard the famous call an engineer in the Bay Area, and,
yeah.
And you call them up and you're like, hey, open to considering new opportunities? Like, I'm an engineer in the Bay Area. What kind of silly question is that? Of course.
Right. Or they say, of course I'm not looking, I'm absolutely happy where I am, but if you're interested, you can check out my resume on Monster and Dice and Filter and everything else. But no, I'm not looking at all.
Right.
Yeah, you applied to your client 5 times.
Right.
Get that with a passive candidate.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen his resume 10 times in the last week.
We've actually had this resume sent to us by 746 other agencies. Yeah.
I think one of the things is that because even if, let's say, all candidates are always actively looking in a hypothetical world, still at the end of the day, maybe where we then become valuable to them is that we help them thin out that talent, that we help them thin out that opportunity pool. We take them, get a comprehensive view of what they would be interested in, identify maybe 2 at the most 3 opportunities within that pool that would be a good match for their skill sets, potentially what they're looking for, cultural fit, and then basically help them screen through some of the roles rather than just mass blanket them to 8 or 9 different clients and basically save them the time of interviewing with 5 or 6 companies that we really probably in our guts know would never pan out anyway for one reason or another. And that's that's one of the huge services, one of the great places where we can be a benefit to both sides of the equation, client and candidate.
Don't you think our clients can kind of argue the case that that's kind of I guess shady on our end to submit a candidate to not only them but a few of our other various clients? So
Why is that shady?
I think they know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
Well, because
Maybe-
like
maybe
we
not,
give
though.
them access to talent. That's all we promise. You have the opportunity to bring this guy on board with your team if what you have is attractive enough for him to move forward. And if not, then it's a pass.
Well,
you know?
we can justify it all day long, right? I mean, we could say like, they know what they're getting into. They know that, you know, they're not exclusive to us, so why should we be exclusive to them, right? I mean,
Right.
you could say all day long that they know that, but honestly, do you think that they know that, or do you think that if they get a candidate from us, you think in their head they're thinking this guy for sure must be considering 3 or 4 other opportunities because my recruiter is just not exclusive to us. So I assume he
would
is.
assume
Or you think
so.
they assume that they are being considered exclusively to them?
I mean, I think anyone who's got some business sense enough to drive, you know, a company would know that, you know, if someone's interviewing in front of you, you're not the only person out there. I mean, they're gonna
But
be
through
speaking-
our representation.
Yeah, I mean, to them, does it really matter? I mean, if the guy's
Yeah.
interviewing 3 or 4 other places, does it really matter who's representing him?
Well-
would he rather have another recruiter representing him to a different opportunity, or would he rather have me representing him 3 or 4 different places so I can shoot him straight? You
Well,
know, I just one last thing. I
Yeah.
think the biggest benefit that we provide to our clients is we get rid of the first date syndrome. You know, you're on a first date, you're like, oh, does she like me? Do I like her? Oh, I don't know. Should I put my hand here? This and that.
Is that usually how it works out?
Yeah, that's maybe a little bit too much insight. But, you know, we take that away. You know, the company's not going to be sitting there, you know, oh, does this guy like us? Does he think we're a good company? We're there to say, he does like you, he likes you this amount. If you pay him this much, then he'll really like you. And he doesn't like you enough to take this amount. You
Right.
know what I mean? It takes the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me just play a little bit of a devil's advocate, although I agree with you 100%. I think our
On the date thing, or?
on everything.
I'm paying for you.
I think our loyalty is to the candidate and what the candidate wants, and to the client as well. So I mean, if the candidate ideally wants to only be considered by one company and that company is ideal fit, that's all where we should be submitting them. If the candidate wants, let's say, a little bit more something like generic, like something mass consumer, something in search, right? Let's say we have 5 clients that meet that criteria. I think it's our right and obligation to consider them across all 5, right? But I think where a client might get a little bit concerned is if they look at like where they see the value in our service. Is the value in our service to just introduce them to a candidate, or is the value in our service to help a candidate believe that taking the job is the right next step for them? So if a client is like, I need your help, you know, convincing this candidate that this is the right next step for them, how do we look them in the eyes and say we're doing that when we're at the same time shopping them around to 4 companies?
And not only that, I think our big kind of pitch to clients is that the value in our service is finding passive candidates. You can't honestly say that this passive candidate's interviewing with 5 different clients.
You can,
You
but
can, but that,
you can.
in whose world does that make you passive? You know,
It depends what you define as passive.
Well,
Everyone's
yeah.
passive right now.
If
so
someone's
it doesn't matter.
everyone's
That
passive.
cancels the word
If
out.
passive means that if they don't get a job, they're still happy with what they're doing, then that's passive. If someone's actively looking, then they can't go back to where they work. They need something new.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to go and find something.
Well,
and I think that's what's kind of like transitioned the whole word of passive. You can,
The client should want to bring on someone who's completely on board with what they're doing. You know, it's not our job to convince the person that this is the right move for them. It's our job to help them make sure they know all the benefits of working for a company like this, and they also know the red flags as well. If I just tell someone the benefits of working for a company and don't tell them the red flags, and then 3 months later they find out everything that I probably should have told them, then, you know, that doesn't work well for the company, it doesn't work for the candidate, we're not servicing anyone.
That,
you know?
That sounds like well and good, but haven't you ever heard like, haven't you ever told a client like, hey man, this guy needs to be sold a little bit more, you really need to roll out the red carpet and just sell him on your vision,
Yeah, but-
mission, and help him believe that
But there's a
taking the
difference
job.
between selling and bullshitting.
Well,
You know,
I mean,
and
selling doesn't have to be bullshitting, but you're like, it's not about convincing.
It's not about convincing. I don't think it's about convincing.
Well, what's the difference between selling and convincing?
The difference, well, selling to me is just transferring emotion. If I'm excited about something, then I'm going to get him excited about it. And if whatever excites me doesn't excite him, then it's not a good fit. You know, it has to be a focus on the long-term deal. You can't focus on, oh, I can get this guy in here and, you know, make it fit and make it work. It has to be genuine. It has to be legit. It has to be the right move for them, or it should be the right move for them.
So
Yeah,
then,
but,
you know,
how do you balance loyalty if you have like you're considering the guy like
our
3
loyalty,
companies and
our
all
loyalty
4
is to ourselves.
to ourselves?
Our loyalty is to ourselves. Our loyalty is to ourselves, and because of that, our candidates and our clients will get a service. They'll get the right person in there, the person who's truly on board with what they're doing and is going to be there for the long haul. You know, I think it's just much better to give like full disclosure and let these people, you know, make the decision for themselves. I can help you because if there's something that you're missing about this company, then I'm going to tell you all about it, and I'm going to make sure that you know all the benefits in working for this company. But that's where it ends, in my opinion.
Yep.
I was just say sometimes we're there to, whether it be selling, convincing, we're there to interpret whether a candidate perceives something is wrong about the opportunity, but we know that that's not like really true perception of that role. We're there to convince and sell them that, in a sense.
Yo, shut up. We gotta take a break.